Dear friends, today I'm delighted to present to you a very interesting development from the credit rating world. Moody's Investor Services today has decided to upgrade India's credit rating, both the local currency and the foreign currency long-term rating by a notch, from Baa3 to Baa2. The local currency short-term rating has also been upgraded from a level of P3 to P2. So this comes in at a juncture when the government has been playing a very important role in terms of bringing about reforms both in the institutional and in a structural manner to address the growth conditions within the economy. Now let's try and understand what played in the mind of Moody's Investor Services when they decided to upgrade India's credit rating. Amongst the several things that they have looked at, the structural reforms, particularly the goods and services tax reform, the recapitalization of the banks by the government to address the non-performing loans issue. The demonetization was a very important event according to them because it was trying to build where the informal economy was also being encouraged to become part of the formal economy. And the Aadhaar-based biometric way of direct benefit transfer. These structural reforms, according to Moody, will play a very important role over a medium to long term in terms of addressing and improving the financing base of the government debt within the economy. It would also encourage both the domestic investors and foreign investors inflows into the capital market. While there have been improvements in many of these in the last few years, the land reform and the labor reform is something which Moody's has expressed concern, where there is some working progress from the government standpoint. This sharp improvement in the credit rating it means that there is lower risk of increased debt for Indian government even during signs or periods of downside scenarios. What it is largely being expected is that it would enhance a very large and stable financing base and contribute to a gradual decline in the government's debt burden over the medium term. Now, while this was a very interesting development and this is clearly a certification by a international credit rating agency about the scenario which is presently there in the Indian economy, but Indian bond yields were actually moving in a different direction compared to the developments. Indian bond yields had moved up almost by about 60 to 70 basis points over the last 2-3 quarters. There was certain confusion around the fiscal front because there were certain comments from the few government officials which suggested that the fiscal target of 3.2 for the financial year, the current financial year, might not be met. And then there was this continued open market operations from Reserve Bank of India in order to address the surplus liquidity issues within the banking system. While all these things were actually resulting in the bond yields to go up, this important certification comes at a very beautiful juncture where we feel that the tide is going to turn once again and bond prices are expected to appreciate from these levels. Now, what is going to result in this bond prices going up from here? The first and foremost is that the 10-year GSEC is not closer to 6 quarter or 640. It is at a level of around 695 right now. Although it is about 10 to 12 basis points lower than yesterday, but clearly that's at a very interesting and attractive level. The second thing is that there is a certification of approval that the structural reforms and the institutional reforms pushed through by the government. That certification of approval has come in from a rating agency. And mind you, this rating change has come after a very long time from Moody's, almost over after a decade or so. Because of this, the foreign inflows both into debt and equity markets are expected to improve because India credit rating clearly moves into the entrench of the investment grade. The fourth improvement that we expect is on the currency front. So currency plays a very important role in terms of creating a financing base from both the domestic and foreign investors standpoint, and we do expect the currency to remain largely stable with short bouts of appreciating bias hereafter. And with this credit rating upgrade, what it clearly means that the confusion around the slippage on the fiscal deficit front will also be put to rest, at least in the near term. Against this backdrop, we are strongly encouraging investors to look at duration products again and possibly look at the short-term and the income fund category, because our sense is that ultimately the fundamentals of the market and the economy will be put to test, where we do expect that benign inflation environment along with surplus liquidity within the economic system, is obviously going to create a huge, large financing base, and bond prices will appreciate over time. Thank you so much.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.